If you were born in the early 90s, you would have witnessed 75% of all American presidential impeachments. Impeachments of the president are rare, but today, for the first time ever, a president is facing his second impeachment, which will make him a record-breaking president. His name is Donald Trump. You see, impeachments of presidents do not happen often. The first was in 1868, when President Andrew Johnson faced an impeachment for conflict between himself and Congress. I know what you're thinking, and believe me when I say you're wrong. Wrong. Congress has many people, but do you really expect them to be able to take on Andrew Johnson at once? Really? Really? Come on guys, the United States Constitution was drafted to prevent boxing matches like this, and so in it, we have what we call an impeachment. When the authorities suspect another for being a criminal, they will bring a charge against him. For example, if someone was suspected of robbing another, a charge of robbery would follow. Or if someone was suspected of stealing, a charge of theft. Or if someone was suspected of killing, a charge of murder. If someone was suspected of making this video, a charge of disturbing the peace. How does this relate to impeachment? The key word here is suspected. So what does suspected mean? If you have an idea or an impression of the existence of a truth, but you do not have proof of it, you are suspecting something. When you suspect that someone is a murderer, you do not have proof that he is a murderer. You only have an idea that he is a murderer. And so, how does this relate to an impeachment? When you indict a person, you formally accuse or charge another with a crime. Likewise, when you impeach the president, you formally accuse or charge the president. In other words, an impeachment is similar to an indictment in criminal law. But there is an important difference, which will be covered later. If you are like me and need an easier way to explain things, impeaching is not like going to someone and saying, "Hey, you're stupid." But it's like going to your friends and saying, "I think Brian is stupid," and then voting on whether or not we can start debating on the issue of whether he is stupid. So an impeachment only means the same as an indictment in criminal law. But what happens next is in the House of Representatives. Only the House of Representatives have the power to consider bringing an impeachment against the president. This is done in the House by a vote. Charges or articles of impeachment would be made, and there can be more than one article per impeachment. After this, each article will be voted on by congressmen or congresswomen to decide whether to impeach or not. If more than 50% or a simple majority agree to all or any of the articles, the impeachment trial commences. Currently, the House of Representatives have voted yes on impeaching Donald Trump. 232 out of 433 congressmen or women, including 10 from Trump's own party, voted yes. Or if you're too lazy to do the maths, it is 54% that voted yes. Or if you're even lazier to do the maths, it is somewhere between 0 to 100% of the people who voted yes. The grounds for impeachment are also listed in the Constitution. In his first impeachment, the grounds for impeaching Donald Trump were for an obstruction of Congress and an abuse of his powers. Currently, the charge is called an incitement of insurrection, when Trump tried to establish an uprising against the country by encouraging riots to take place. So what happens if the House of Representatives have voted yes? Can you relax now? Is your job done? You let your hair down, put your feet up, and shake those beautiful legs of yours? Yes, you can. In fact, you can right now. unless you are a politician who's interested in this or an interested party, in which case the next showdown is in the Senate. In the Senate, the House of Representatives, on behalf of those who have voted yes, will have what are known as managers. These managers function similar to lawyers, and likewise, the president will be allowed to defend himself, and so will have the same. During an impeachment of the president, the Chief Justice of the United States will hear the trial. So, once both the House of Representatives and President Trump have made their cases, the senators now function like a jury. This means that they would have to vote whether or not to convict the president. But this isn't like any other vote. It is difficult to meet. And when it comes to impeaching the president, it has never been met before. More than 2/3 of a special majority of the senators have to agree to convict. If you think that's all, the Senate usually consists of the different parties, and the president will belong to one of them, so it will be difficult to obtain larger than 2/3. This threshold has never been reached. The closest ever was in 1868 during Andrew Johnson's impeachment trial, where more than 50% voted guilty, but just one person shy than a special majority voted guilty. Nevertheless, if the threshold is met, the president will be convicted. If it is difficult, why impeach? If successful, President Trump will be removed from office, and the vice president will be the next president until the next election of succession. Right now, Mike Pence will be the 46th president, and on the 20th, Joe Biden will be the 47th. But as we know, Trump is nearing the end of his 4-year term. Is there a point from removing him? The trial can still take place after he has left office, but more importantly, after a successful trial, the Senate can vote on whether to ban the president from holding a public office ever again. This can be done by a simple majority where more than 50% votes is sufficient. So the tactic is clear now. Impeachment is usually done in hopes that it will remove whoever the charge is brought against from office, and as another added opportunity to ban the person from holding office ever again. So in this case, if Trump were impeached and a successful trial takes place, followed by another successful vote on the ban from him holding office, he will no longer be able to run for president ever again. The Constitution also provides that any president can never pardon an impeachment, which will make the impeachment an even more powerful political tool. Lastly, impeachment is not a criminal trial, so if the president were being impeached, it will not mean that he or she was a criminal unless tried in a criminal court and found guilty there. The act of impeaching an official is to remove him or her from office and not to convict him to a jail sentence. But this does not stop another criminal trial from being held against the president. Or, to summarize things, a presidential impeachment is for the congressmen or women in the House of Representatives to vote on whether to charge the president. The Senate hears the trial and votes accordingly. If convicted, the president is removed from office. The Senate can also further vote to disqualify the president from ever running again. Conviction is also not the same as in criminal trials. The president will never be sentenced if convicted, and a separate criminal trial is entirely possible. And so once the whole process is complete, Donald Trump is now the first president to be impeached twice. But will he also be the first president to be successfully removed from office? And will he also be disqualified from ever holding office again?